Good evening. This is VK3EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast coming to you from the studios of VK3CSJ in Narre Warren South, broadcasting on the prime frequency of 3541 kHz in the 80 metre amateur radio band, and also broadcasting by the Melbourne television repeater VK3RTV Digital Channel 1 in HD. And as I've said before, more information about the repeater can be found on Amateur Radio Victoria website. It's a whole page dedicated to information on the RTV repeater and how to see it and get into it. There's also vk3rtv.com. And we're also streaming on my YouTube channel, VK3CSJ. Just look for the live indication. And also on my Discord channel in HD. And again, as I mentioned, Discord is probably the better avenue, since the delay is less than a second from what you're hearing me on 80 meters to what you're seeing on the video side of it, unlike YouTube, which has got a 20 up to a 20-second delay. 20-second delay. This is the last broadcast for 2025 tonight, and as I mentioned last week, we're taking a 5-week sabbatical and shall return to the airwaves, if all works out, on the 27th of January. Sorry, that's Tuesday, the 30th of January, that week. Monday is Australia Day, and I go back to work on the Tuesday. So Monday, the following Friday, the 30th, the end of the month really, almost, is when I shall return to the airwaves. And hopefully the situation here will be a little bit more tidier. God, I hope so. Anyway, a very pleasant good evening to everybody that might be tuned in at this present point in time. I know folks wander up over the hour or so, but anyway, the sky is looking good over Heathcote at the moment, I note. For those watching the video stream, that's the current all-sky camera that we have running up at Heathcote at the dark sky site, and there's not a cloud in the sky from what I can see. You can see the constellation of Orion and Ceres, and I think it's the one of the large one of the Magellanic Clouds, our sister galaxies. Overall, it's a fairly clear looking sky up at Heathcote, which is fortunate. Hopefully it'll stay like that, because tomorrow is the running of the Starbecue, the Christmas Starbecue, which the ASV run every year at this time. Christmas Starbecue. And if you visit the ASV website, I had a slide up a moment ago. There it is. Just bring that up again. I suspect that there's still tickets available. You have to, these days, you have to book to go up there. It's open to the public, so just go to the ASV website and look up there's a revolving banner on the homepage, and the Starbecue is one of those. The one that I've got up on the screen right now is exactly it. And you click on that, opens up another page which gives you all the information about how to look at getting up there. So anyway, I wish everybody that's doing the Starbecue tomorrow all the best for tomorrow. Hopefully it'll all turn out. Just going to turn up my audio a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring that down a bit there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a slight imbalance of audio going on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, it looks alright. Anyway, so there it is. The Starbecue for 2025 on tomorrow night. Go up there by generally things start to accumulate from about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a food truck up there by about 5 o'clock. They start opening up so you can have dinner up there. They have very nice hamburgers, ice creams and frozen drinks, and they're usually set up until about 7 o'clock. I think it's the Lions group that has a food truck available up there. I think they still do that. And and of course there'll be many telescopes set up on the observation field, so it'll give you a chance to walk around and have a look at the various telescopes while there's still light in the sky, and talk to the various owners of those telescopes to find out all about them, and which one perhaps is the best to buy if you're interested in purchasing. There's also an astrophotography field. It's a completely separate field for the astrophotographers. They'll all be set up, so you can go over there and talk to the astrophotographers about how it's all done. They'll be quite happy to let you know what's involved and the rabbit hole that you can go down. Anyway, you're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. And just for the last time this year, I shall go through the usual gunge. Where is it? There it is. My hand gets tired holding the book open each time. I really must do something about recording this. In fact, I have recorded it. It's just keep losing the file. The Astronomical Society of Victoria was founded in 1922. Comprises well over 1,600 members. Membership of the Society is open to all persons with an interest in astronomy, of course. The Society's objectives are to encourage the study and practice of astronomy, which it does very well. Monthly meetings are usually held on the second Wednesday of each month, which just occurred this week. I keep forgetting to remind you blokes the Friday before the monthly meeting what's coming up. And there was a very interesting talk this last Wednesday. The colour of galaxies. Anyway, I have downloaded that. It can be viewed on the ASV YouTube channel, and but I have downloaded it and can play it over my various video mediums, which I intend to do at some point. So that was last Wednesday. Privileges of the membership include the right to borrow books, periodicals and other publications from the extensive library that the Society has, which is based at the Melbourne Observatory. Copies of the ASV magazine Crux, containing news and articles, observing notes and the like. Free provision of the Astronomical yearbook, which is what I'm reading this from right now. That's it there. This is the 2024 yearbook with the actual 2026 yearbook arrived just the other day. Beautiful publication. Excellent work, Mr. ASV. Regular Society Club night meetings are held at the Melbourne Observatory in the Ellery Suite, Burwood Avenue, opposite the Shrine of Remembrance. Members are encouraged to use the Society's instruments located there in order to gain first-hand experience in telescope use. These instruments include a 508mm equatorial reflector and a number of smaller reflectors. Members are also encouraged to make use of the Society's country property located near Heathcote, up in the vicinity of Ladies Pass, some 90 minutes drive of north of Melbourne. There are a range of instruments available for members to use. Only two, the largest ones with appropriate training, and they range 300mm to 1000mm. There's also a a real wheelchair accessible telescope there as well. It's a special telescope that's been designed so that anybody that's in a wheelchair that might come up can look through the eyepiece without any problem. I think that's fully functional now. There's also a fully steerable 8.5 metre 30-foot radio telescope managed by the Radio Astronomy Section Group. Pleasant good evening to any folks that might be listening up there on the specially tuned and adjusted and designed ASV radio receiver by Steve Bentley, VK3YJQ. I guess they still use that up there. Members are encouraged to make and use telescopes. Advice and help on both matters are provided willingly to newcomers desiring to do the same. Of course, instrument making is only one of a number of common interest activities catered for within the Society. Other areas of interest to folks could be the deep sky observing section. Deep sky observing, astrophotography, lunar and planetary observing, auroral, meteor, comet, radio astronomy, computing, cosmology and astrophysics, historical studies, research and astronomy in general. Contact details for various section directors are provided in the yearbook. Further information may be obtained by visiting the ASV website, and notifications of events are given in Crux Extra bulletins, which is email sent out every other week to members just to remind them of what's coming up. Please note that the ASV will conform to all government health directives, thus ASV events may be required to be cancelled, postponed or moved, whatever. If you wish to write a letter to the ASV by a normal postal, you would address the envelope to the secretary, not the person, just title it the secretary. Astronomical Society of Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne 3, Victoria 3001. And that's it. So like I say, the ASV website, www.asv.org.au. There's a .com in there somewhere too, I think. www.asv.org. No, there's no .com. www.asv.org.au is the URL, or just type in the Astronomical Society of Victoria. And that will reveal all that needs to be revealed. Alrighty then, we'll see you all next year. Anyway, I was noted something of interest. Sometimes I don't really pay much attention to my own YouTube channel because it's just there for the sake of this broadcast, really. And I know I don't carry on about it, like subscribe and hit the bell thingy like everybody else does, YouTubers. But I did notice something that was interesting. It's borders on being entertaining. Where I kept the page open. Here we are. This is under my name, actually, Clint Jeffrey. I must have two YouTube channels, VK3CSJ and one that's titled Clint Jeffrey. Must have done that at some stage. But if you click on the browser on the ASV website, let me bring it up. Oh, might not. Oh yeah, no, maybe I can. Where are we? Okay, this is the browser on the home page. There it is. Stop. Okay, for those watching the video side of it, the folks that organise the website and keep it going for the ASV, of course, put a picture up for the Friday night broadcast, ASV radio broadcast. The only thing it's missing from that little announcement is where to find it. As in like the radio side of it, what frequencies and all the other information. There's nothing there on that slide that tells you, how do we listen into it? Anyway, I just before I went on air, I actually clicked on that that screen, and it opened up to a YouTube channel. So what they're doing is providing a link to the YouTube stream, but there's no other information there that tells that this is primarily a ham radio thing. And because it is primarily a ham radio thing, we are very restricted to, well, let's just say restricted to the kind of things that can go to air, unfortunately. Anyway, I note with interest is that excuse me, that I actually have 336 subscribers. Would you believe it? 336 subscribers to this particular channel, and there's 572 videos. I just thought to myself, my goodness me, I didn't know that. I've got a long way to go to get the YouTube award for 1 million subscribers. I think if you get 1 million subscribers, I think it's something like that, you get a little dedicated YouTube frame, and in most cases those people that have won that distinction have it somewhere in the background so you can see it. I mean, can you see anything there in the background? So anyway, I'm very impressed with that. And I mean, when I started out the ASV radio broadcast about 12 years ago now, it might even be more than that, the last 5 years seems to have just disappeared so quickly. But I used to talk about the QRZ.com page for ASV, for VK3EKH, because Russell Ward, VK3DRW, was the former operator here on EKH for 20 years, and Russell primarily just used 80 metres, nothing else really, no other mediums to spread the word. I decided to introduce the A2V repeater, and eventually YouTube stream, and recently Discord. I've opened up a few avenues there, but I used to talk about making the QRZ, just simply the QRZ.com page, more active. Actually, let's see if I can have a quick look at that. VK3EKH on QRZ.com. Let's just see how many people have logged on to look at the nonsense that goes on here. EKH, there it is, and there we are. So at the moment it's not a whole lot, but since I've had the established the dedicated website or web page for EKH, there's been 9,687 lookups for the particular society, and that's started from basically nothing. So that's not too bad. I'm happy to see that as well. There's just a little bit of information about the station and a few other things, and some pictures of a very, very, very tidy looking station, which used to be upstairs. That's the upstairs studio, and some of the antennas there. And of course there is also, goodness me, there's also a picture of Russell, VK3DRW, on his yacht, because he is a sailor, has a homemade yacht. I think it was he built it from memory, and I think he did. Anyway, but there's a picture of Russell just there as well, and a few other things. And actually there's a picture there of the corner of the property here before the dome went up. If you ever visit the QRZ.com page for VK3EKH, the very last picture there is actually showing what it's showing is the 160 metre monopole for 160 1825. But that little bit of green patch there is now where the dome resides. But I did get ready for it. The pine tree that was there is being cut, so I was planning for it. Anyway, enough of that. So, you're more than welcome to subscribe, I guess, to the YouTube channel. But I am impressed with that. There's 336 subscribers. And when I look at the majority of the video channels there, it's just Friday night, really. But I seem to average about 100 views from. It must occur over a week between sessions. So thank you very much, is what I'm trying to say to those folks that do eventually catch up with the nonsense from here, from the bilge. All right, now one other thing before I go into talking about the planetarium. I was going to talk about it last week. The other interesting thing that's just come through to my notice is that there's been a bit of a change with the local Casey Council. It seems that there's been a bit of a coup, to use that term loosely, but it seems that the Casey has decided to change their thinking on a few matters when it came to giving out and issuing permits for certain things. And as of where was it, the 2nd of March 2026, next year, they're going to be updating and replacing and changing a few of these rules that were set out beforehand. So, which is good to actually see. I'm a bit tempted to read out what I'm seeing here, but I'll just leave it at that, I think. So if you live in the ward of Casey, just be aware that there are changes afoot when it comes to what you can do with your property. And it's at this stage where if I wanted a bloody shipping container, I can now get it. So the fuss that they made over that, unbelievable. Anyway, enough of that. I really did want to read that whole thing out, just as an editorial to this. All right. There's a few little things to go on. It's what is it? It's 22 past the hour, and just want to bring to your attention that Melbourne's first star theatre, the H.V. Mackay Planetarium, 60 years ago this month, on the 2nd of December 1965, Melbourne's first planetarium opened as a public venue dedicated to and in response to a growing interest in astronomy and space exploration. Located in central Melbourne on the first floor of the Institute of Applied Science of Victoria, later the Science Museum of Victoria, the new attraction occupied part of the Swanston Street building shared with the State Library of Victoria and the National Gallery of Victoria. Those were the days. I remember that so well. And there's one of the first images here to bring up. This is the cover of the publicity leaflet produced in the 1960s, with audience marvelling at the show above, and no doubt the modern marvel of the central star projector. It's kind of a bit hard to really tell with all the printing across that, but that was the publicity leaflet cover produced in the 1960s. Having said that, as early as 1943, there was an interest in a planetarium for Melbourne, but it was not until 1960 that the efforts of a number of parties converged to make it feasible and ultimately viable. An overseas tour was commissioned by the Institute trustees to identify a suitable option, and finally recommendation was made for a planetarium more modest in scale and cost than earlier envisaged. Design plans were drawn up in 1962, but the costs proved to be prohibitive. The trustees could only provide a fifth of the total funds required, and the project seemed to be stalled. However, the project's viability and ultimate success was ensured by a substantial grant by the Sunshine Foundation, established to honour the significant industrial and agricultural legacy of H.V. Mackay, along with a small donation from Carlton United Breweries. In 1964, construction began on a newly integrated extension to the Queen's Hall to accommodate the planetarium, ticket booth, office and storage area, and related exhibition gallery. Work was carried out or overseen by the State Department of Public Works. A reinforced fiberglass steel-framed dome of 37 segments suspended free of the walls was fabricated by the Commonwealth Aircraft Corporation in Port Melbourne, and the Keianetsu Corporation of Japan was awarded the contract for a Go-To Optical Manufacturing Corporation medium M1 projector and its associated systems. Under the supervision of a Japanese technician from Go-To, the installation, testing and training was complete, and with chairs donated by the Capitol Theatre and carpeting from Westminster Carpets, the new attraction was ready. It officially opened on the 2nd of December 1965 at a ceremony and show for invited guests, and then to the public just in time for Christmas and the summer school holidays. There's another image here to bring up. The caption for that is that a 1962 perspective view of the proposed planetarium. The concept of a city silhouette seen at the horizon or based at the dome was included in the earliest design. Right. So, for the first time, visitors could experience precision simulations of the night sky with celestial phenomena and satisfy their curiosity and educational needs in a way previously available only to those in metropolitan centres overseas. This was at a time of growing public awareness of research, discoveries and exploration in the rapidly developing space age. In its first year, the venue attracted 52,000 visitors. In keeping with its educational mandate, it's commonly served 1,000 students each week from a wide variety of schools. During its operational life, the planetarium manager, programmer, operators and educational office, seconded from the Victorian Education Department, ran a program of regular night sky shows. However, it was soon realised that a straightforward night sky presentation was not enough to hold audience attention, and scripted themed shows were produced, including some adapted under license from overseas planetariums. Woven into a special night sky session, especially in the planetarium's later years, were a variety of topics reflected by titles such as Death of the Dinosaurs, Is Anybody Out There?, Star of Bethlehem, Comet Halley, The Moon is Not a Balloon, Comets, Vagabonds of Space, Clockwork Universe, Cosmic Catastrophes, Our Place in Space. The planetarium program supplemented and supported the Institute's and later Science Museum's educational program and public exhibitions covering the Sun, Moon, planets and comets, lunar and solar eclipses, rocketry and aeronautics, the developing American and Soviet space programs, early lunar and planetary probes, and the Apollo moon landings. As an institute in the pre-internet age, it produced printed resource material, including public information sheets and educational kits for students and teachers. And here's just a couple of these, 3 of these, that they produced. Some of what you're seeing there is some of the later printed material produced by the H.V. Mackay in keeping with its role to educate and inform. And here's a picture of the planetarium itself. I do remember it. I used to visit it when I was a kid. A wide view of the interior of the H.V. Mackay Planetarium with circular seating, central go-to projector, a city skyline at the base of the dome, and a control console at the left with a range of equipment and specialist projectors. I think I can recall the smell of that room when I walked in there as well. Constructed as a first floor extension over the internal southwest courtyard of the building, the H.V. Mackay Planetarium was reached through the Queen's Gallery. Once inside, visitors were greeted by a central Japanese go-to medium model M1 projector standing on 2 tripod supports under a dome 2.2 meters high and 10 meters wide. 2.2 meters high. You could never really perceive it when it was just lit by a very, very uniform light. The whole dome was just uniform. The light reflecting off it was just uniform right across. And you could never really tell the height of it, how tall that dome was in the centre. But there it is, 2.2 metre high and 10 metre wide. The go-to displayed both northern and southern hemispheres to provide the entire night sky. Its 34 focusing lenses fitted with apertures would, as the projector moved and rotated, open and allow light from its internal lamps to pass through finely etched discs, giving sharp images of stars or other phenomena on the dome above. A number of auxiliary projectors simulating meteors, comets, satellites, aurora, rainbows, eclipses, constellations, lightning, and planetary motion were located under the dome or at the control console. They added their own effects, as did multiple slide projectors placed out of sight around the dome. Rows of circular seating gave capacity of 117, with the operator console located to one side. Public shows were largely live and could display around 5,000 stars visible to the naked eye, typically up to 6th magnitude in dark sky conditions. Sessions could cover sunsets and sunrises, clouds, seasonal constellations, the progression and retrograde motion of planets, the moon's motion of lunar phases, Earth's diurnal and annual motion, precession, changes of latitude, the band of the Milky Way, comets, satellites, major nebula, and star clusters, and solar and lunar eclipses were all catered for one way or another. Commentary, music and sound effects enhanced the visitor's experience. Shows typically began by simulating dusk with a city skyline panorama, followed by twilight fading into the full night. Yes, I remember all that. A session often took visitors through to sunrise the next morning. Sessions were often themed and open captioned topical events. Use was made of a multiple slide projectors, turntable audio, and later reel-to-reel tape and cassette tapes, and even 8mm or 16mm movie projection. Wow. Apart from repainting and recarpeting and remodel entrance foyer in the 1970s. Entering the computer age, the planetarium received multi-projection automation in 1984 and improved stereo audio in 1993. During its operational life, the HV Mackay made necessary upgrades to take advantage of new projection technologies, presentations, styles, and visualization techniques. The evolutionary development through innovation, imagination, and creativity was continued to challenge planetariums, especially in modern digital age. There's another picture here. I think I've got this. Where was that? There it is. Okay, and that's a picture. What's the caption for that? Visitors in 1970 at the planetarium's first floor ticket office and foyer, an area designed to blend with interior of the Queen's Hall. At the time, the HV Mackay was compared with the famous London Planetarium, which closed in 2006, and Chicago's Adler Planetarium and New York's Hayden Planetarium, both of which continue to this day. Melbourne's first planetarium was the first fully optical large-scale planetarium in Australia, and then the largest in the Southern Hemisphere. Unusually, for the time, it opened as a designated no-smoking venue, unlike cinemas, theatres, and other public auditoriums where such prohibitions only began in 2001 before becoming widespread by 2007. Initially, the planetarium ran 3 afternoon sessions each weekday and 1 evening midweek show. Tickets were very affordable at 2, 3 or 5 shillings, 20, 30 or 50 cents. Only decimal currency began in February 1966. Children were half price and those under 5 not permitted. Under 5 years not admitted. After a period of settling in, it was expected morning sessions would be added for holidays, but there was no capacity at that stage to run sessions at weekends. In its first year, it appears that limited funding required all institute staff to be rostered once a week to help collect tickets and supervise the visitor entry and exit. And there's another picture here to bring up. There it is. There's a few people in there. Over 3 decades later, the venue's final days included a Saturday afternoon show on the 22nd of June 1997, sponsored by the Astronomical Society of Victoria, one of the planetarium's original stakeholders and long-term supporters. Good on you, ASV. Its final sessions occurred on Sunday the 13th of July. The planetarium was then dismantled as the museum closed ahead of a planned relocation elsewhere in central Melbourne, and the refurbished building was occupied by the State Library of Victoria. Today, the successor to the Institute of Applied Science and later Science Museum is Museums Victoria, comprising Melbourne Museum in Carlton Gardens, Immigration Museum in central Melbourne, and Science Works in Spotswood, which opened in March 1992. The city's second planetarium, a 155-seat digital venue, opened at Science Works 7 years later on 26th of August 1999. As a state asset for the HV Mackay, decommissioned go-to projector remains in Museums Victoria Heritage Collection as a superb example of precision engineering in support of public interest and understanding of science in a pre-digital era. electromechanical optical projectors such as the Go-2 or the Zeiss dating from 1924 have been in use around the world for a century, and despite the advent of digital age, some remain in use today in planetariums, either as a standalone or in a hybrid mechanical digital systems. For 32 years, the H.V. Mackay Planetarium was a popular attraction for school excursions and general visitors. It ran around 30,000 sessions, catering to over 2 million visitors. As a star theatre, bringing in the night sky indoors and making astronomy accessible to all, it provided information, entertainment and education to satisfy a heightened interest in astronomy and space exploration. This planetarium success story and this project to satisfy a public thirst for knowledge began in Melbourne 60 years ago this month. Okay, so yes, if you missed your chance to see that early planetarium, well, you missed your chance. But having said that, the planet, as indicated in that article, the planetarium is still now fully functional at the Science Works Spotswood, and all I can suggest is go to the Science Museum website, click on the link to the planetarium to find out when it's open, how to get there. And being this now the Christmas holidays, now is a good time to actually visit the planetarium and check it out. And of course, being digital, there's a lot that goes on apart from just the usual looking at the night sky. They have a lot of video programs that run as well. You're tuned to ASV Radio VK3EKH, and I'm just knocking the audio down a little bit on vMix because that might have been clipping too much on the YouTube side of things, so I've just brought that down a bit. I have an email address. I forgot to mention that before, vk3ekh@gmail.com if you wish to send reports. Mumble. Oh yes, okay, this next article. It's a farewell to Jim Lovell. Now, I didn't know this until I read it just a moment ago. Jim Lovell has passed. 2 Gemini and 2 Apollo flights cemented his trailblazing astronaut's place in history. And we have a picture of him here. Okay. The world lost a true hero August 7, when astronaut and space pioneer Jim Lovell passed away at the age of 97. The first person to fly in space 4 times, Lovell helped pave the way for the first moon landing and came to epitomise NASA can-do attitude. I had the honour and pleasure to interview Lovell 3 times during the later half of the 2010s, says the author here. Always gracious, humorous and engaging, he became a good, dare I say, friend. What follows is a remembrance sprinkled with his reflections culled from our interviews. And that's the author of the coming from the author of this article, which is Richard Talcott. Richard Talcott, courtesy of astronomy.com. In the early years, James Arthur Lovell Jr. was born in Cleveland on March 25, 1928. After his father died in a car accident in 1933, he and his mother moved to Terre Haute, Indiana, where they lived with relatives for 2 years. Lovell spent his informative years in Milwaukee. He excelled in school and became an Eagle Scout, yet still found time to study rocketry and building model rockets. Finances were tight in the Lovell household. Jim had a few options to continue his education after high school. Enter the US Navy. Although the prestigious and selective Naval Academy rejected Lovell's application, the service had just initiated a program that provided 2 years of free college tuition to study engineering. Flight training and a year of active duty followed. The students were then allowed to complete their degrees before becoming naval aviators. Lovell completed his 2 years at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, but then reapplied to the Naval Academy at the urging of his mother, who feared that an outbreak of war could unduly delay his education. The second time proved to be the charm. He graduated in 1952 and soon started flight training in Pensacola, Florida. 14 months later, he officially became a naval aviator and began flying night missions off aircraft carriers in the Pacific. Although Lovell was happy as a carrier pilot and later instructor, by 1957 that career had lost some of his excitement. He applied for a transfer to the Naval Air Institution at Paxquint River, Maryland, where he planned to test experimental aircraft. But the ground beneath aviation was shaken to its core October 4, 1957, when the Soviet Union launched Sputnik into Earth orbit. Suddenly, the horizons aviators could envision stretched far beyond Earth's atmosphere. Lovell set his sights on becoming an astronaut, and in 1958 he was one of 110 test pilots selected as candidates for the Mercury program. Like his initial rejection from the Naval Academy, he didn't make the cut. A high count of a liver compound meant that he wouldn't be one of Mercury's 7, the group who would make America's first forays into space. Of course, 7 astronauts wouldn't be able to crew all the planned 2-manned Gemini and 3-manned Apollo flights. NASA started recruiting a second astronaut group in 1962, and this time Lovell made it. He joined 8 other winners in the so-called Next 9 or New 9 as a veritable who's who of astronauts designed to achieve President Kennedy's goal of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. The Gemini program was designed to test every procedure needed to realize Kennedy's objective. 10 crewed flights in 20 months demonstrated astronauts' abilities to rendezvous and dock to spacecraft, start, stop and restart rocket engines, function productively outside a spacecraft, and most importantly, live in space for an extended period. Lovell's 2 Gemini flights played critical roles in achieving these milestones. In December 1965, Gemini 4's NASA was fond of using Roman numerals for the Gemini flights, as the NFL is a numbering Super Bowls. Sent Lovell and Frank Borman into Earth orbit for 14 days, longer than any of the Apollo moon missions. The 2 astronauts also participated in the first rendezvous with another crewed mission when they met in the Gemini and flew in a tandem with other ship for 3 orbits. The final mission in this program, Gemini, I don't know these Roman numerals, Gemini X11, what's that? 6, became in November 1966. Lovell teamed with Buzz Aldrin on the first 4-day flight that proved humans could work outside the spacecraft. Although for NASA astronauts Ed White, Gene Cernan, Michael Collins and Dick Gordon previously had performed spacewalks, none went particularly well, but Aldrin equipped himself with special tethers, foot restraints and portable handholds, buzzing around the spacecraft capsule as if on a walk in the park. And there's another picture here to show. Astronauts Jim Lovell left and Frank Borman in their T-38 jumpsuits and helmets stand behind a model of their Gemini spacecraft capsule several months before its December 1965 flight. Lovell would not fly again for 2 years. The tragic launch pad fire that killed the Apollo 1 crew, Gus Grissom White and Roger Chaffee, on January 27, 1967, forced NASA to delay the program while the agency figured out what went wrong and then redesigned, the spacecraft's command module. Flights resumed with Apollo 7 in October 1968. Lovell would get his next opportunity 2 months later on Apollo 8. The historic mission to the moon hadn't been planned that way. NASA originally conceived Apollo 8 as the first flight for the lunar module in low Earth orbit, following on Apollo 7's successful test of the command and service modules. But the lunar module program was running behind schedule and wasn't ready for Apollo 8. NASA made the bold move to swap the crews of Apollos 8 and 9 and fly 8 to the moon. I guess there's a certain amount of luck in everybody's life, said Lovell, who joined the Gemini crew, Borman and Rocky astronaut Bill Landers on the Apollo 8 crew. Assassinations, riots and unpopular war had dominated the news in 1968, but these three men were about to change the year's grim narrative. On the morning of December 21, Apollo 8 lifted off from Florida's Kennedy Space Center on top of the powerful Saturn V rocket. A few hours later, the crew became the first humans to slip the bonds of the Earth's gravity, and they lit the Saturn V's third stage. 3 days later, Apollo 8 fired its service module engine and entered the first of 10 lunar orbits. Lovell told me, the author, his most profound memory of the lunar visit was his new perspective of on Earth. He says, when I looked out at the Earth for the first time, 240,000 miles away, my world suddenly expanded to infinity. I could put my thumb up to the window and completely hide the Earth. And I suddenly realized that behind my thumb on this little planet was about 5 billion people. Everything I ever knew was behind my thumb. And there's a famous picture here that we all know, which is called Earthrise. Earth rises above the moon's limb as Apollo 8 comes out from behind the moon. The lunar horizon lay approximately 480 miles or 780 kilometers from the spacecraft when Bill Anders captured this particular scene. Lunar orbit also brought the astronauts iconic reading for the 10 verses from Genesis, and it gave Lovell his first close-up look at Mount Marilyn. He had spotted this triangular-shaped peak during training and thought it might make a good reference point for the Apollo 11 astronauts who would land on the adjacent Sea of Tranquility. The unofficially named it after his wife, Marilyn Lily Lovell, who would remain married to Jim for 71 years until his death in 2023. Until her death in 2023. In a mission filled with firsts, perhaps the most memorable is a single image called Earthrise, which you can see here. It showed a stark lunar landscape with a beautiful blue planet hanging in the blackness of space, capturing the fragility and isolation of our home planet. Although Anders was the mission photographer, Lovell was quick to point out the alignment to him when the Earth drifted over to my window and looked at it and saw the composition of Earth with a respect to the lunar horizon. I said, Bill, this is it. This is the picture. And there's another picture coming up here, which I shall quickly put up. Houston, we have a problem. With the successful landings of Apollo 11 and Apollo 12, spacecraft had become routine, if not a little boring. For many Americans, Apollo 13 would change that in an instant. Once again, fate played a role. Lovell was initially scheduled to work back to the moon, or to go back to the moon on Apollo 14, but NASA decided that 13 slated commander Alan Shepard didn't have enough training and swapped crews. Lovell and rookie crewmates Jack Swigert and Fred Hasse lifted off April 11, 1970 for what was supposed to be the first lunar mission to concentrate on science. Although not a superstitious guy who believed that the number 13 was unlucky, Lovell told me, the author, as you look at the flight and you analyse the mission from its inception to the finish, you'll see that it was plagued by bad omens and bad luck. Jack Swigert only made the crew because originally member Ken Matley had been exposed to German measles, and he was the only crew member not immune from prior exposure. In addition, one of the ship's oxygen tanks had been damaged earlier, and though apparently repaired, it was still behaving oddly. Then, less than 6 minutes into the flight, one of the engines shut down 2 minutes prematurely. The other engines managed to compensate, however, and all seemed well as the crew headed toward the moon. That changed 2 days later, on April 13, some 200,000 miles from Earth. The damaged oxygen tank exploded during a routine stirring. It caused the other tank to fail, and cascading events left the command module with its supply of electricity, light and water. Most people would have panicked, but Lovell and his crewmates were former test pilots, and they knew how to handle adversity. Along with mission control, they figured out solutions. First, they would use the lunar module as a lifeboat to get back. Second, they had to alter the spacecraft's course, which was designed to get them to the lunar orbit and to get on a free return trajectory. Then they had to speed up to get back to the Earth before their supplies ran out. Maneuvering proved to be a big problem. NASA didn't design the lunar module to fly while attached to the command and service modules, yet they couldn't jettison the command module because they needed it as a heat shield to protect them during re-entry. The centre of gravity, instead of being in the centre of the lunar module like it is normally, was way out in left field some place, said Lovell. So I literally had to learn my way, he said, I literally had to learn by the way it handled and how to manoeuvre. Fortunately, when you're in deep trouble, you learn pretty fast, he said. The major problem was the build-up of carbon dioxide. The lithium hydroxide canisters on the lunar module were designed to remove carbon dioxide from 2 people in 2 days, and there were 3 people for 4 days, Lovell said. It meant that we had to take a square canister from a command module and rig it into the environmental system of the lunar module, which used round canisters that went into round holes. We ended up using duct tape, plastic and pieces of cardboard and an old sock to jury rig a system to remove the carbon dioxide. The crew made it safely back to Earth on April 17. They received hero's welcome, a far cry from the ho-hum reaction to their liftoff. And there's one final image here of the man himself. Jim Lovell gave hundreds of interviews over the years and was privileged to conduct 3 of them. The author says, I was privileged to conduct 3 of them. His warmth, insight and down-to-earth humour came through every response. I consider my time with him a highlight of my 40-year career at astronomy. On July 26, 2017, nearly 50 years after Lovell's Apollo flights, the International Astronomical Union recognised Mount Marilyn as the official name of that peak on the Sea of Tranquility's edge. As he told me in 2018, from that day on, in perpetuity, looking down at me long after I'm gone, will be this little triangular mountain named Mount Marilyn. May our memory of Jim Lovell and his fellow space pioneers survive as long. So, yeah, I thought that was an interesting one to catch up with. Yes, to be an astronaut. And sometime next year, the Artemis program are going to be sending a bunch of astronauts back to the moon. They're getting pretty close to getting that all ready and rocking and rolling. But the Artemis program that NASA's been working on is going to send, I think, 4 or 5 astronauts to the moon, not to land, but to just do a test flight, very similar to the Apollo program, orbit the moon and then come back, do all those tests and checks and balances and see how well it works. So anyway, hopefully we'll be able to bring all those news items as they occur to you on the Friday night sessions next year. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast. This is the current disk of our sun. If you are able to see the sun right now through the safety of appropriate glasses, that is the sun, with just a handful of sunspots. The solar wind is currently at 415.1 kilometres a second, at a density of 4.49 protons per cubic centimetre. The current sunspot number is 123, and the auroral glow over Antarctica is looking like this at the moment. There's a little bit of activity, but not a whole lot to be able to see visually. But that's the current glow. And the coronal hole, there is a pretty big gaping hole in the sun there, where a lot of high speed charged particles are streaming from the sun. Okay, what's next? The radio sun. Where are we? The radio sun. Where are we? The radio sun. Sunspot number. Oh, it's way down there. Okay. The radio sun, measured at a wavelength of 10.7 centimetres, is 146 solar flux units. So that's fairly high. 146 solar flux units. The KP index, did see that just a moment ago. The planetary K index is currently 3, which is considered quiet, but over the next 24-hour maximum will be up to 4.67, which is considered unsettled. Geminid meteor shower. The best meteor shower for 2025 peaks this weekend when Earth passes through a stream of debris from the rock comet 3200 Pelithian. I think that's how you pronounce that. Forecasters expect dozens of bright Geminids per hour during the nights of December 12th to 13th, 75% peak they reckon. December 13-14 peak night. No matter where you live, the best time to look at is between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. local time. So look towards the constellation of Gemini for the peak of that. The radiant, what I refer to as the radiant. And there's a picture here of some aurora. I'll just throw that up there for the last part of tonight's program. Reverse shock sparks geomagnetic storm. A reverse shock in the solar wind passed by Earth on December 10, sparking a G2 class geomagnetic storm. During that storm, auroras were photographed in north US states from New York to Wyoming. A wall of intense reds climbed over my head, colouring the snow with reflected light, says Michael Seducus from Glydian in Wisconsin. Yes, that'd be something to see. So, the only other thing to show, I guess, is the latest solar chart and radio frequency flux chart. Good grief, couldn't get it right. Where are we? There. So, if you're wondering where we are on the scheme of things, the top is the solar cycle, and the bottom is the radio sun flux cycle, and you can see how they pretty much mirror each other. But we are definitely on the decline now from solar peak, solar maxima. So as we come into 2006, we're pretty much at the 2 o'clock position, if you could call it, say that, on the two cycles. So, but there's plenty still to occur. There'll be plenty of solar coronal mass ejections and solar flares and whatnot that'll cause the ionosphere to react accordingly, and HF bands will still be affected by these amazing things that happen with space weather. Visit Tim of the Scoves Space Weather Woman YouTube channel for updates. Tim of the Scove Space Weather Woman is the young lass to keep abreast of what's happening with solar weather, apart from spaceweather.com. So I think on that note, we shall finish up tonight at 6 minutes past the hour. And it's taken me a whole hour to get through this cup of coffee. And it's just bordering on being too cold for my liking. Another quick look at the all-sky camera up at Heathcote. So you can see how the Milky Way has moved across the sky. Again, the constellation of Orion is standing out. Look at all those stars. It's you can see the radio telescope just at the bottom of the dish, bottom of the view. So there'll be a full display of that as well tomorrow. So if you're going up to the Starbecue, walk across to the Radio Astronomy Lab, and the guys there will take you on a personal tour of the dish and the lab and what's been going on up there at the site. All right, I think that's about it. So what I'll do now is open up the frequency 3541 kilohertz and see if there's any stations wishing to check in. So this is VK3EKH, and I think I'll remove these headphones before I do, because that way, oh my goodness me, doesn't that make things different? That way I can patch the sound over the digital stream as well. This is VK3EKH listening on 3541 kilohertz. Oh, hang on.
Beautiful sound on the other system too, and the big screen telly. I only just thought of it 5 minutes ago. Could have been doing this all along. Anyway, yeah, 3 AOB, back to you. VK3SPX.
All right, VK3AOB, VK3SPX. Was there anybody else? I can hear that blasted woodpecker that's been going for the whole hour in the distance there. Damn nuisance thing that is. VK3 AOB, VK3 SPX, any other stations? Alright, let me just kill that audio there for a sec. Alright, VK3 AOB, g'day Brett. I heard you tuning up before, half an hour before the cast, and mighty fine signal and mighty fine audio. You really do have a very professional sounding station up there, that is for sure. VK3 AOB, and note your comment about YouTube. VK3 AOB, VK3 EKH.
No worries, I'll have to turn the sound down because this is the line. I've got the on my Mackie speakers, the music side of it. Wait a minute, hang on. Hang on a sec.
Wow.
Yeah, that woodpecker's quite loud,
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is.
There's a view there, just a road out of the way. Yeah, very good. And no, I was just sitting here, I was working on photos. A couple of years ago went to Sovereign Hill and I took a lot of pictures, and I thought, well, I'll do a job on the pictures. The computer monitor, the screen died a month ago, so I had a new screen fitted, and I've come back and realised the colour balance is wrong and everything. So anyway, I've been fixing all that up, and yeah, they're coming up, but there's 500 pictures. Anyway, yeah, shame about Lovell. Yeah, interesting stuff, and it would have to be a fairly unique experience, certainly a fair thing to say, being up in space and going to the moon and all that. Right, there you go. Yeah, good broadcast as usual. I don't know where all the others are. It's a warm night here. It's 24, nearly 24 and a half degrees, 24.3 degrees in the living room shack here. And yeah, I was working on these photos, and I thought, oh, hang on, I can, because the little computer was hanging up, I've got you streaming on here as well as trying to do the photos, and I went over, I've got the, the question I have, is your sound stereo or just mono?
Just mono. Oh. Just mono.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Have you got your amp on tonight?
Oh yeah. It's you can see it just behind me here. that one there.
Right, okay, no worries. Yeah, you're 5.9 plus 30 dB, and that's without any preamps running. I think that one's off. Yeah, that's off. Just barefoot. Anyway, yeah, job well done. So I'll leave it at that, and back to you, and have a good Christmas.
Yeah, thanks Brett. VK3 AOB, VK3 EKH, returning, very good. Yeah, I'm running around 400 watts, so into inverted V dipole. So yeah, that little linear there behind us there is working quite well. Yeah, thanks Brett. It's been a fun thing. One of the things I'm hoping to try and do over the 5 weeks is to just to get this behind me sorted out, and get the operating bench here a little bit sorted out, so it's not so cluttered. And I'm only using the one screen here for everything. When I had the shack upstairs, I used to have a couple of other monitors running so that I could monitor the Discord chat room and the email, and perhaps keep an eye open on YouTube as well, but I don't have any of that. I have to select it actually. So if I don't think I've got my email actually open. I have to turn that on right now. Let me just open up my inbox. There might be 1 or 2 emails there. Just opening that up now as we speak. And ekh@gmail.com inbox. So we have only one report from Stephen. Okay, Mr. HK Stephen. He says strongest signal I've ever heard, ever received from you, peaking up to 40/9. He says you're on fire. Thank you, Mr. HK. I'll probably catch you on 160 meters tomorrow morning. So that's the only report there. And a quick look at Discord will reveal Cassiopeia. G'day, Nebs. And Steve, Mr. SPX is there. So yeah, it's a bit quiet tonight, isn't it? That's all right. I'm not too worried. They'll no doubt catch up during the week on my YouTube replay. Okay, thanks, Brett. I actually used to run stereo. I had a separate audio stream running here at one stage, and I provided left and right audio for that, and it was it always fascinated me to have these two microphones here they weren't really in view at the time. I don't think they were, but I said this is the left channel and this is the right channel. And used to get a kick out of that. But no, we've just got everything's mono here these days. Although the audio to YouTube is well, it's mono, but it's two channel, and the same to the TV repeater is stereo. But of course, I'm only running the one microphone. I suppose I could introduce another mic. I suppose. Anyway, enough of that. Across to you there, Steve. VK3SBX, VK3EKH.
Just before you do, you're plus 40 dB today, so that's you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. It actually surprises me that the Telstra modem hasn't fallen over, because usually when I'm running at 100 watts, it's